I don't know why it started with him. I'm the last one to make a sound. Why, hi there. I'm Ron Juckett. He's your Douglas, and welcome to the DoDCast for this second day of the Winter Meetings 2018. And, geez, it sounds like a broken record from last night. The Nationals have made no news again today. A lot of other teams have, but just not the Nats. And honestly, Drew, this is not a surprise.
No, I don't think so. I think the Nats don't really have too many needs right now, and I think Mike Rizzo will definitely get the framework going for some trades during the winter meetings. But I'm not sure we see anything get completed this week.
Yeah, I mean, the needs are there. And the hot rumor that for most of the day was that the Nationals were interested in Jake Arrieta, which is probably true. But Scott Boras apparently was pumping that one to the hilt, passing around a 75-page binder report on why, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then claiming that he was going to get Arrieta was going to get $200 million in free agency. And I could also become the next Queen of England too, but I think both of those things are rather unlikely. In fact, I'd say they're both pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I would love Arrieta. I mean, if you add him in the rotation behind Scherzer and Strasburg, not to mention Gio and Rourke behind him, I think that's a great rotation. I would love to have him, but not for $200 million because that's only $10 million less than what Scherzer got, and I don't think Arrieta is really anywhere close to Scherzer.
Right. Late signings. Drew Smiley has signed a 2-year deal with the Cubs, even though he probably will not pitch at all next year. Don't know the numbers on that. The Brian Shaw went to the Colorado Rockies, 3 years, $9 million a year. Oh my God. And the Phillies, everyone thought the Phillies were about to sign Addison Reed, and who they signed instead, Drew?
Tommy Hunter.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much what's actually happened so far today. A couple other minor signings, and the Orioles will probably trade Manny Machado, and everyone is asking about Fulmer from the Tigers, and Zach Greinke may or may not be traded. But as far as the Nationals are not going to be involved in any of that. So that's pretty much what's happened today. Also, the Cardinals are now the front runners for Ozuna from Miami as their fire sale continues. That deal probably has some legs, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I know St. Louis has a great farm system. We saw what's reported to be the proposal earlier, and it'd be either Randall Grichuk or Stephen Piscotty, who are two big league outfielders, and 2 of 3 of their top pitching prospects. So I think that's a great package, and I'm not sure the Nationals can really rival that.
I don't think they'd want to rival it. I think the whole MO of this offseason is the opposite of what they did last year. They want to hold on to who they can and say, well, look, we have some major league outfielders that are ready to be traded, but the minor league stars are not going anywhere. Seth asks if Addison Reed is a possibility for the Nats.
Yeah, I think he could be. I know they're looking for a late inning reliever, preferably a right-hander. So I think he definitely could be. But if he's going to be getting as much money as we saw Brian Shaw get, is the 3 years, $27 million total, I'm not sure they really want to pay him that because they already do have Coda Glover and Enny Romero who can fill the 7th inning, as you wrote.
Would you pay Kinsler that kind of money?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I would give really any reliever that much money at this point.
Not for a 7th inning guy. Yes, Kinsler can fulfill a lot of roles, but no, not $9 million. And Seth says, "Don't forget what I sent you on Instagram." I think they have enough cheaper 7th inning options. I don't really know how much money the Nats are going to spend. I mean, the one thing that struck me earlier today about the Arrieta rumor was, yes, they're going to. Okay, so the Nationals are going to go over the competitive balance tax, but are they going to blow all of that extra money on one player? I mean, to me that seems a bit unlikely, especially because they have, except for this Goforth, who they signed as a non-roster invitee. I mean, they have 11 unsigned free agents. Now they're not going to get all of them back, but I can't believe that none of them are coming back. I where do you think they're going to spend the money this offseason?
I think if they were going to spend big on one position, it would be starting pitcher. Just to try to fill out the rotation with. I mean, they definitely could get away with just signing a fifth starter, but I think they might shoot higher and maybe go for a guy like Lance Lynn or Alex Cobb. But I really don't see them spending $200 million on Jake Arrieta.
No, I could see a 480 deal, 480, which is about what they're projecting Darvish to get. That I would do, and I think a three starter on the staff probably deserves about $20 million a year. But I wouldn't go much more. I wouldn't go any longer than four, and I wouldn't go much more than $20 million a year. Seth's asking about Wade Davis. I would say no. I don't think closer is something that they need to address. And Davis, okay, except for one game in Milwaukee and the All-Star game, is going to want to close someplace. And I think Sean Doolittle is fine as a closer. This was a great problem to have last year. You need either an experienced right-hander for a seventh inning guy, but you have, I know Seth's going to hate this, you have a whole litany of people. You even have Sean Kelly if he's healthy. So no, I don't see them. I would be more surprised if they went out and got a quote unquote legitimate closer than I would a top notch starter.
Yeah, and I think another reliever to kind of keep an eye on, who's already in the system, is Aaron Barrett. We saw the other day he was officially cleared to fully participate in spring training, and a couple of years ago he was great for the Nationals. Then he ended up tearing his UCL and had to undergo Tommy John surgery. During his rehab, he completely shattered his elbow, had to get surgery for that. But now it's been a long road back, and he's cleared to fully participate in spring training. So, I mean, if he's able to return to form, I think he's another great reliever. Maybe we see him have kind of the season that we saw Matt Albers had in 2017.
I think they got to re-sign Albers. Smiley, by the way, according to Jason Martinez, got 2 years, $10 million. So he's potentially going to get $10 million for 1 year because they are not expecting him back at all. That's another impressive signing. The Cubs have been extremely active.
Yeah, I think that's a good signing. He appeared primed for a great season with a solid World Baseball Classic performance last year, and he's put together a pretty good career. So, yeah, I think if he's able to come back in 2019 healthy, that's a good signing for the Cubs.
Speaking of Tampa, a lot of teams are asking about Chris Archer. I've been high on him in the past. I'd have to go back to see what his numbers were from last year, but there's a lot of team control for that. The money isn't terrible, and I think he could definitely be a 3.
Yeah, I would love Chris Archer. I think coming to the National League would be very beneficial. We've seen what that's done for guys in the past, especially with like Max Scherzer, who came to the Nats from Detroit. And then I think he's just kind of had to carry the whole team in Tampa. But if he came to the Nats, it'd be the 3 starter at best behind Scherzer and Strasburg. So I think coming to the Nats, that'd probably be a move that'd be very beneficial to Archer.
I would want a guy, if they're going to trade for a high-end 3 that's going to eat innings. That was my concern about Darvish, especially post Tommy John. He doesn't seem to eat a lot of innings. 30 starts, 183 innings are not great numbers. You want that person to pitch into the 7th on a regular basis. Seth says definitely trade Gio. No, I wouldn't trade Gio. I don't think that the people who are primed to be a 5th starter are Major League ready yet. I don't think A.J. Cole is Major League ready yet. I don't think that Eric Fetty is Major League ready yet. I don't think that you have a lot you're not in a position of depth and strength to trade a starter away. The only one I could see going is Tanner Roark, and only because they seem to have soured on him, or maybe that was just Dusty. I mean, you're the one that wrote the story. I mean, I don't know if the Nats are shopping him around, but you tell us.
I mean, Mazin was reporting that he could be dangled in trades, and I think I could definitely see him being traded. It's a bit unorthodox, but I could see it happening. But yeah, I really don't think he'll be traded. I think if we're going to see some Nationals trade off the major league roster, probably look to guys like Michael Taylor, Wilmer Defoe, and Brian Goodwin.
The only thing with Gio is that he has major league money contract. That they were looking to do, switch some money for some monies. They could do that with Gio and his $12 million.
Yeah, I think he's definitely movable as a starting pitcher, and especially with a veteran starting pitcher, a lefty, which a lot of teams are looking for right now. But yeah, I don't really see them trading him this offseason.
Hector Rondon, who I was supposed to write about tomorrow, but I have to write about something else. Is that a possibility? Someone who was the Cubs closer, lost the job during the middle of the World Series year, and then was non-tendered.
I think he could be a possibility, especially since his value is really at an all-time low right now. Maybe you get him for cheap, and he returns to form with a change of scenery, and he's reuniting with Dave Martinez in DC. So yeah, I think he could be a good pickup for the Nats for maybe a little less than what he's actually worth.
You're the one that wrote the magnificent article about the Rays and Nats making a trade. Now that there's been some time since you wrote that, give us some thoughts on that. Is there a possibility for Odorizzi?
Yeah, I think there would be, because the Nationals are in need of a starting pitcher, and I think Odorizzi, he's under team control for a few years. He's fairly young. He's put together a solid career with the Rays, and like I said with Archer, I think coming to the National League would be beneficial. And the Nats really don't need him to be great; just kind of fill out the rotation. And another guy who I also wrote about in that article was Alex Colomé, and I think the Nationals would definitely love to get him as well. I don't know if he would close and move Sean Doolittle and Ryan Madsen down in the 7th and 8th innings, but I think Alex Colomé would be a great fit in the back end of the Nationals bullpen in whatever role he would fill.
Let's see. The Angels remain in on Ian Kinsler. That's what John Heyman is just reporting. And interesting that it looks like we're finally going to get some movement, but not on the net side. What should we look forward to tomorrow? I mean, that when the Nats make a move, it's going to come from pretty much nowhere, and it'll make a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think the reliever market is going to continue to it's going to continue to a lot of relievers be signing like we saw late tonight. And I think maybe we'll even see a few more sign later. We saw Addison Reed was supposedly close to a deal with Philly. I think maybe he'll get 3 years somewhere else. Maybe even with the Nats, we saw Chelsea James was saying that they were interested in him at one point. So I'm not sure we see anything from the Nats, but maybe a reliever here and there if Rizzo decides that he's interested in a guy like Addison Reed.
Seth asks about Fernando Rodney, and his aging too much for me. Again, they don't need another closer wannabe. That's just my view on him, and I think Arizona is very open to have him back, from what I read today.
Yeah, I don't really want Fernando Rodney. He kind of reminds me a lot of Rafael Soriano, who had some nightmare save attempts with the Nats. And I know Rodney wouldn't be the closer, but I don't know. I don't really want him in the Nationals bullpen right now.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just hard for an ex-closer to become an ex-closer. They just have to have that mentality there. We're not hearing anything on the catcher front. Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I am a little bit, because I think the Nationals definitely have a need. I mean, Mike Rizzo said that he's comfortable with Pedro Severino stepping up and taking on a big league role this year. I'm not sure that's actually the case, although he obviously is going to say it. But yeah, I would definitely expect the Nationals to go out and get a catcher at some point this offseason.
Mike Rizzo would make a mint on K Street.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. Seth says thoughts on Rizzo's comments and Harper, and I'm trying to think of what he said.
He just said that he wasn't going to discuss what they're trying to do with Bryce Harper. I know we saw Dave Martinez say that he would obviously lobby to re-sign Bryce Harper, and I think Mike Rizzo is pushing to re-sign him, but he's not really going to say a whole lot publicly at this point.
Mike Rizzo, you could probably take to Vegas for the World Series of Poker, and he'd win. Not because he might be or might not be a good poker player, but he doesn't give stuff away. The fact that he actually said something about signing Harper before he hit free agency really kind of blew my mind. I had a whole article on that. My view is I think Harper is 50-50 that they re-sign him before the season starts. That's just me. CC Sabathia for the bullpen. Someone said a friend wanted him to ask. There's some Yankee starters that have hit free agency. I personally think Sabathia stays. But I wonder if they would look at Pineda and what Tanaka will get, because he's opted out. The Yankees aren't endlessly made of money, as much as the Steinbreiters and some of our old friends might seem to think. If I was to do CC, I would think that it would be for a starter, and I think there are better starter options out there. But personally, I think Sabathia stays.
Yeah, I think Sabathia stays with the Yankees, and I also heard him linked to the Angels and possibly them going to a six-man rotation with Ohtani. But, I mean, I would take Sabathia as kind of a plan C or D behind some of these other options that we've heard the Nationals linked to. I think maybe if you get him on like a one-year deal, he really reinvented himself last year and put together a solid season. So I think maybe he'll be in the back end of the rotation, just kind of eat innings. So I think I would definitely take him, but not as the primary option.
Right. No, I would agree with that. He certainly seems to have changed his life around since he went into to rehab. Was it 2 years ago? Last year?
I think it was last year.
2016. It all just kind of jumbles together. That seems to have to made him a better person, and certainly was a better pitcher, and one of the main reasons why the Yankees did what they did this past year. Yeah, I have a hard time seeing him leave New York. Let's see. I guess back to the catching thing before we go. I really am surprised that Alex Avila's name hasn't come up, because he really is the best catching free agent out there, and was kind of hoping to see what the market will bear out for that, because the Nats are going to have to go and get somebody. I mean, we've talked about the catching thing before. Rizzo may be paying lip service to Severino. He just did not strike me as ready. And I really think that the Nationals have to limit Wieters to 90 games behind the plate. Go back into Baseball Reference and look at Wieters' September splits. There's about as good as my September splits would be. Ricky says Tanaka opted in. I'm surprised MLB trade rumors didn't knock that one out. And Pineda may not pitch in 2018. Old friend Ricky Keeler says. Even if Severino makes the roster, do you see where he could catch 70 games a year?
No, I don't think so. And then coming into 2017, I thought he was the catcher of the future, but I think he kind of struggled in the minors, and then he came up to the bigs and didn't really impress me that much. I think he might have taken a step back, and I know a lot of people around the organization are now thinking Rowdy Reed might be higher than Severino at this point. So I think the Nationals definitely need a catcher, and Alex Avila would be a great fit.
Seth asks, would the Nats trade A.J. Cole and get MLB-ready players? No. I think that Cole at this point is what I would call a quad A player. It's good enough to pitch in some major league teams and not good enough to pitch on some others. You send him back down to AAA and he'll do okay, and he just can't make the jump. So I have a hard time seeing Cole being A, traded, and B, getting anything of value. I think if they wanted to move Fetty, they could get pieces of value, but I don't think they'll want to do that.
Yeah, I think if Cole's traded, he'll probably just be as kind of a toss-in. He definitely wouldn't be one of the primary pieces in the trade. Maybe if someone's looking for kind of a guy who can come up if someone gets hurt, then he could fit in. But yeah, I don't think he'll be traded.
Cole might be someone that you would convert to a bullpen position.
Yeah, he didn't do terribly out of the bullpen towards the end of the season when the Nationals gave him an opportunity. So I think, yeah, that could definitely be an option for him in the future.
Yeah, here's a guy that, okay, we're going to cap you at 9 batters. give us 4, 5, 6 outs, maybe even 9. That's great. But no one ever uses long relievers anymore. All right, I think we've talked long enough. Anything else? Well, anything
No,
else?
I don't think there's really too much more going on at the moment.
All right, so we kind of expect by the time that Drew and I talk to you tomorrow night that the Cardinals will have Ozuna. Derek Jeter might actually show up to Orlando. The Cubs will have signed 5,000 or 6,000 other players, and watch what the Braves do. I think the Braves and Marlins could make a deal. Christian Yelich, I'm sure, will be. I think Christian Yelich will be. I think they'll both be traded. As this Miami fire sale goes. But the smart thinking tonight is that while the Cards are in on Marcelo Ozuna, there now is a mystery team involved. So I think the Miami fire sale is going. Matt Harvey being possibly traded. I didn't hear anything on that today. Outside of the Phillies, no one else in the division is doing anything to make themselves better at this point, right?
No, not really at the moment. I think a lot of teams are actually trending down, especially Miami.
Yeah. All right. So that will do it for us tonight. Let's see. What will Seth asked what will the Red Sox do? JD Martinez for Christmas. They have the money, and he can solve a lot. He has the power. I'm really surprised that no one else seems to be after him. Ozuna would cost. Says please be the Nats. What package do you think Miami would want for Ozuna from Washington?
Well, taking a look at the rumored package from St. Louis, there's 2 of their 3 top pitching prospects and a major league outfielder. So I think maybe they'd want a guy like Michael Taylor or Brian Goodwin, and then a couple of their top pitching prospects, whether it's Eric Fetty or Seth Romero or Will Crow, some those types. So I don't know if the Nats can really compete with the Cardinals at this point.
Yeah, I think the whole MO is not giving up the prospects. And so when we're at the piece when they trade the prospects tomorrow, please refer me to freezing cold takes on Twitter, okay? All right, you can read us at districtondeck.com. Follow us on Twitter at districtondeck. Give us a like on Facebook at District on Deck. And like and subscribe here. We will be with you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel for night 3 of the winter meetings. For Drew Douglas and the rest of the staff of District on Deck, I'm Ron Juckett. We'll talk to you later.